Are new details on the charges Donald Trump faces in Georgia and the potential terms of his surrender. The former president has until next Friday at noon to turn himself in. This morning, the Secret Service tells NBC News that it's expected to happen sometime next week, although plans have not been finalized. NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander has the latest.
With the countdown officially on for former President Donald Trump and his 18 co-defendants to surrender in Georgia, this morning we're getting new details of how that process could play out. In a statement, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office says, based on guidance from the DA's office and presiding judge, it is expected that all 19 defendants will be booked at the Fulton County Jail, a process that would typically include fingerprints and mugshots, though it is not clear whether that would happen here.
The indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump.
The former president is facing 13 charges in a sprawling indictment, alleging he and his allies unlawfully conspired in a criminal enterprise through a number of acts in an effort to overturn President Biden's win in Georgia. In a social media post, Mr. Trump said he would hold a news conference Monday to present an irrefutable report on alleged election fraud in Georgia, though he has not detailed what's in that report. Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who Trump had tried to pressure after the 2020 election to overturn the state's results, is preemptively shutting down Trump's claim. In a post of his own, Kemp writes, "The 2020 election in Georgia was not stolen. Our elections in Georgia are secure, accessible, and fair." Among the others named in the 41-count indictment, Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, who Tuesday pushed to have his case moved to federal court. And Rudy Giuliani, who helped pioneer the use of RICO, an organized crime scheme charge to prosecute mobsters in New York. Now, along with the other defendants, he's fighting that very charge.
This is a ridiculous application of the racketeering statute. There's probably no one that knows it better than I do.
NBC's Blaine Alexander with that report. And joining us now, former litigator and MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin joins us. NBC News legal analyst Andrew Weissman and professor of history at Tulane University, the great Walter Isaacson.
So, Walter,
try
to put this in perspective for us historically. 4 indictments over the past couple of months. And now the president has so many indictments, the former president, so many indictments that just one or two out of all of the 90 or so basically would amount to a life sentence. What are we going to go through as a country over the next year or two because of Donald Trump?
You know, this is totally unprecedented. There've never been an indicted former president. And I think what's more important historically, which is this is really a test about democracy. And if you look at what's underlying the narrative, there's a large group of people, 20-30%, including Trump, who believe that democracy is not something that we should put on a pedestal and always try to preserve. That it's more important to figure out how to retain power or how to do whatever you need to do. And I think there's actually been a reduction in the sense that democracy is the core of what America is all about. One interesting thing to me on this Georgia case is that Georgia and the South, to some extent, may lead us out of this a bit. And I'm not just talking about Fani Willis. I think Governor Kemp, many others of the Republicans in Georgia are the ones who say, hey, no, we support democracy.
Yeah, so is this something that is just something that's grown, this yearning for a strong man, for autocracy? It seems to me, Walter, that through the years, we've had some people, some political philosophers, some political scientists come on and say, about the third of the public, this 10 years ago or so, pre-Trump, about the third of the public would be more inclined to a strongman type leader, not as concerned about democratic principles, democratic norms. And I'm just wondering, is it Trump that has fed something that was already pre-existing in about a third of Americans, or is he the cause itself?
One of the things that is interesting is that this is somewhat of a global phenomenon, the yearning for the strong man, the turning away of the messiness of democracy as not being the best possible system. You can see it even happening in Israel. You certainly see it happening in Hungary and various other places in Europe. I'm hoping that this combination of populism and yearning for the strong man, which we've seen grow over the past decade, Trump tapped into it. Most of the time, these fevers break. Sometimes they don't. We have a couple examples in the 20th century where the fever didn't break and it led to wars. But we, and I mean Republicans, Democrats, Americans who truly believe in America, have to keep pushing the narrative of why democracy is sacred.
Andrew Weissmann, what's your takeaway 2 days into this Georgia indictment?
Well, I think that the key really is going to be focusing on the D.C. case. On August 28th, Judge Chutkan is going to be deciding on the trial date. And that's really the whole ball of wax on whether there will be a January 6th trial before either the Republican convention or the general election. I think there's probably no way that the Georgia case is going to happen, I think, before the general election, even though Fani Willis has said she wants a speedy trial. I think it's very hard when you have 19 defendants in an appropriately but sprawling case that will really go to trial, given her prior cases that were RICO cases. They usually take some time. So I think I'm focusing very much on what will happen on the 28th when Judge Chutkan has said that's when she intends to announce the trial date in that case.
And let me ask you, Andrew, about timing of that case. If a case, let's say she set the trial for March or April, would that be an expedited trial schedule? Is the government moving the Trump case faster than they would do against normal white-collar criminals?
That would be relatively fast for D.C. in a case like this. I did the Manafort case in D.C. That took 11 months to go from indictment to trial, and that was considered relatively fast. But there are two things to remember here. One, given the time clock that this case, if it is not brought before the general election, may never happen, that is something that it's in the country's interest, and I think that is appropriate for the judge to consider. The conservative jurist, Judge Luttig, has said and has been speaking out about he thinks it is entirely within the due process clause and the due process rights of Donald Trump to bring that case to trial prior to the general election. And Judge Chutkan has said that she is going to give a speedier trial if she sees that Donald Trump is continuing to make public inflammatory statements that could infect the jurors and intimidate witnesses. And she has said that is a factor that she will consider. And clearly, since the time of that arraignment, that is what he's continued to do. So I think he has handed her what she needs to have a speedy trial.